He's got a voice like solid gold and a twinkle in his eye. And keeping that eye firmly placed on our parliamentarian buddies is Tony Amos. We welcome Tony and the weekly political roundup.
Tony!
Jared Smith, you do that well in a cappella. You do that. I'd like to hear it with accompaniment one day.
Can be arranged, Tony. But first of all, what's the buzz, Tony?
Well, the buzz this week, Jared, finally they have established the difference between a politician and a statesman.
What would that be, Tony?
The politician's still alive. That's the buzz.
And speaking of politicians, Tony...
Yes, Jared, our weekly look at the oddballs and misfits, the geeks and the freaks, the sooks and the crooks, the rooters and looters of public office we proudly call our politicians.
What are they up to then, Tony?
Oh, just the usual. We say this every week. They are up to the usual, Jared. Hand in the cookie jar, bed hopping and telling lies. That's what they're good at.
First up, Tony, pensions. What's happening there?
Well, pensions, parliamentary pensions, they're not enough. Oh. Not here, not there, not anywhere, apparently. No, because the time has come to lock up your wallets. Why? Because he's on the prowl. Who is this man? Well, he's coming to town. Yes, he's coming to town to take your money. He's on a bit of a speaking tour. I'm talking about the man who's a one-time Prime Minister. He was also a part-time proctologist for George W. Bush. His name is Tony Blair. And he's sweeping through our town, and you can hear him speak for $1,500 a ticket. Wow. How about that? Tony Blair, on the road, will be flying in his private jet, and he'll take your money and give you a ticket to one of his events for $1,500 each. And this too from a man who has this shroud of war crimes still hanging over him, of course. You know, and it was only a few years ago that his wife, Cherie Blair, used to be Cherie Booth, that was her maiden name. And by the way, her father was Tony Booth, who was Alf Garnett's son-in-law until death us do part. Yeah, she came through town, did the same thing, hoovered up the money she could get, and then left town again. Now it's Tony's turn. He's coming to town, and he wants to take your money. So you've been warned, lock up your wallets.
Well, it was a big week for the Mana Party, Tony, a big week.
Was it? A big week for the Mana Party. Jared, you were pronouncing it wrong. It's the Money Party. His hopeless Hone Harawira and his Money Party. His hopeless Hone, we know the story, had the by-election, had a majority of thousands, went to the by-election, got a majority of just 1,000. Then he had to be sworn back into Parliament. Of course, swearing's nothing new for Hone. No, hopeless Hone, he's famous for his white MFs, isn't he? So swearing in for Hone should be nothing new. But he wouldn't do it the right way. He refused. The Speaker, Lockjaw Smith, had warned him he had to do it the right way because he'd pulled a stunt before like this. Anyway, he went in, wouldn't swear his allegiance to the Crown or the Queen, wanted to do it to the Waitangi Treaty. In fact, Dr. Spooner, of Spoonerism's fame, he would have called it a cunning stunt. But we know that Hone is just an act, really, isn't it? It's all an act, and he's a bit of an actor, Hone. In fact, I think he's ready to nudge Rodney Hyde out of the way and take that non-speaking role in the vagina monologues. That's hopeless Hone. Meanwhile, the man with no plan, yes, our Prime Minister Shonky Chonky, he's still being hysterical about Labor's proposed capital gains tax. I mean, Labor have presented us with a plan. It may not be a perfect plan, but it's a plan. You know, I mean, Shonky and his offside of the double-dipping dipstick from Dipton, yes, we know him as Bill English, the finance minister, they have no idea. I mean, their plan is to keep borrowing $300 million a week. That's more than $1 billion a month. They want to keep borrowing. Who's going to pay that back? We are. Our children, our grandchildren will have to. And a capital gains tax is a fair and equitable way of raising taxes. And it's only a tax on the profit of investments. Nothing wrong with that. If that's your business, if that's your income, if that's what you do for a job, you've got to pay tax. We all have to pay taxes, otherwise there'd be nothing. A plan is better than no plan.
Nothing is more serious, Tony, than the English saying that they're going to take swipe out black jersey.
Well, isn't that bizarre, eh? Yes, it's not too far to go now, you know, but it's only a few weeks away to the Rugby World Far Cup. That's coming. That's going to be a mark-up as well, isn't it? Lots of activity. The All Blacks have to win, but there's going to be some confusion. We hear the English team now are going to wear a black rugby jersey. A black rugby jersey.
It's sacrilege.
How can the English wear a black rugby jersey? You know, if it was my call, they'd be wearing yellow.
Tony, we cannot leave without a little visit to our friends, the List MPs in Wellington.
Oh, yes, the dreaded List MPs. They're members of Parliament that nobody voted for, but they're very important people. Just ask one of them. Anyway, this particular story is about a Polish List MP. Yes, we're going global this time, Jared. A Polish List MP. He came to New Zealand as a refugee when he was about 19 or 20, became a member of our community. Now he's a successful, if that's the word, List MP. And like most of us, Jared, as we become baby boomers, we get a little challenge with our eyesight. You know, we do. We reach for the dreaded spectacles and do those things too, a bit of squinting and all that stuff. Our mothers had warned us, but we paid no heed. Anyway, he went off for an eye test. And there he was at the eye specialist reading the eye chart. OK, he said, I want you to read this. This is the first test. I'll give you the first line in the biggest letters. And the List MP looked and he said, yeah, I can do that. He said, WXQZ. The next line was a bit smaller. He read it again. TVUXZ. Next line was a wee bit smaller again. ZSKY. And the specialist said, it's good. You could read that. He said, read it? I know the bloke. That's politics. See you next week.